How to be happy, and we're going to talk about diabetes again, part two, because it's actually a very big subject. It's not going to cover type 1 diabetes because my understanding of that is that it is genetic, and if you suffer from it, it's pretty much out of your control. Just to, I have a friend who has it, and for the longest time he got it because he was bitten by an insect. It caused something genetic to react in his body, and his only solution was to wait until his pancreas died. Apparently, he tells me it has been discovered that therapy for a different kind of disease involving irradiation kick-starts the pancreas all over again, but it costs $1 million or £1 million, €1 million. It's a lot of money, and there's not a lot of hope that he will be able to benefit from that particular treatment, because it would cost too much for the NHS to do that for him, and he certainly doesn't have $1 million to go to another country and pay for it. So that's type 1 diabetes, out of his control. Anybody else's, as far as we're aware at the moment, unless you can pay for this particular type of therapy. Type 2 diabetes is very much in our control, and why I'm labouring this point is that if we are going to say we want to control stress, we want hints and tips on how to control stress, then we have to start with those things that we do have some control over. We cannot control the fact that we may need a job, and we have to, because of various circumstances, work in a particular work environment. It may well be that my own case, when I worked in IT, my salary had gotten to the point, and I had responsibilities. I had 3 stepchildren and a mortgage to help pay, and there were cars and goodness knows all those other things that had to be paid for, and I couldn't afford to just give that job and that higher salary up and go and pursue something which would have been more me, because I would have probably had no salary at all for a year, and it would have been unfair, having accepted the responsibilities, to then suddenly tell my stepfamily, sorry, there's going to be no fun, no games for maybe 4 or 5 years. So that was a source of stress, which some people would say absolutely was in my control, but less so. However, what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, those things are within your control. Now, the other thing that you probably need to know, maybe you do know, maybe you don't, is that the food that you eat, if it does lead to type 2 diabetes, there are certain consequences. It's not just, it's almost diabetes mellitus. I mean, that means sweet. I presume that refers to the fact that your urine gets a lot of sugar in it. And it sounds like such a nice little name, but some of the consequences: blindness, because your retina can detach in your eye. I think I mentioned gangrene, but yeah, so presumably the blood can't get round, and then it's usually in your extremities, and that means your fingers and your toes especially. This happened to somebody I know. He had to have his toes amputated, and I'm presuming it was because of that. It could have been because he was smoking, but and he used to smoke a lot. But we'll put it down to to diabetes, because it's certainly one side effect. And I know somebody else who had to have her leg amputated, and that was down to diabetes at the knee. And so she was pretty much spent the rest of her life in a wheelchair, and she was only in her 50s at the time. So this is two of the extreme things that can happen. But cholesterol, as a result of eating the wrong kinds of sugar and at the wrong time and in the wrong quantities, that obviously can cause a problem with the arteries. Now, doctors will then try to put you on certain drugs, and some of those drugs, if you do your research on them from medical sources, always do your research from peer-reviewed medical sources. Will the review of some of those medicines are, well, they indicate that the side effects are much more drastic than the health aspect. And you can also deal with cholesterol in any case through exercise, through a combination of honey and cinnamon, and or small amounts of alcohol. Too much and then you start the whole cycle off. So that would be counterproductive. So it is possible to deal with cholesterol on that in those with those remedies or treatments, if you wish to call them that. But that is something which is in your control and everybody's control. There are many ways of getting your weight down to the BMI or within 10% and a safe, within the borders of your BMI, so that your pancreas and the insulin that it continues to produce can still help you. So 6:27, I've gone over the 5 minutes. So when you're writing out your cause of stress, if you have a weight problem, weight causing diabetes and other health stress, make sure you start thinking about that, because that is something you can absolutely control, and it can be by simply switching out some of the things that you eat and starting to eat a little bit later and cutting out our snacks, and when you do snack, making sure that it's something which is lower in calories and a lot healthier than the snacks that you are already eating. Okay, possibly more about this tomorrow. I need to think because I don't want to belabor the point, but we are talking about removing the causes of stress. So, we've got to consider them. We have to be brutally honest, because otherwise they're not going to go away.